Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Metallo. Another Superman Rogue to add to the collection, but it's not the version Metallo I'm familiar with. This one has a sort of green and red suit and an atomic logo on his chest. This guy's a Target exclusive. It was street dated for 7/21, so I went in and got him this morning. So let's take a look at the package. As you can see at the top, 22 moving parts. McFarlane Toys, ages 12 plus. This guy's part of the Gold Label collection. A Gold Label figure is simply a retailer exclusive. Whether it be Walmart or Amazon, this Gold Label is a Target exclusive. DC Multiverse Metallo. Here he is in the package. Looks like he has a little bit of kryptonite, display stand, and collector's card. One side of the package, Metallo. Other side, same thing. At the bottom, there's his barcode. And at the back, here he is in that similar type outfit posted up from the comics. So with no further ado, let's open him up. Alright, now that this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He has a display stand, collector's card, and some kryptonite crystals. Fantastic accessory that I can put to a lot of good use. Before I deload all that, let's talk about and check out the figure. So this is Metallo. And this is not a version I'm familiar with. It looks kind of weird, but kind of cool at the same time. He's in sort of an armored power suit. Here running is John Corbin. He's made up of advanced technology, and he has a depraved human mind of John Corbin. These are put together by a cybernetic interface and powered by kryptonite. He's a living weapon that battles Superman. So this is a member of the Superman Rogues Gallery, and pretty high up on the list, at least in the figures we haven't received yet. But like I said, this is not the version I'm familiar with, but he does look pretty cool. So let's take a look. Starting with his face here, he's like the man in the Iron Mask. I mean, you can see this metal sort of helmet with human flesh underneath. And that's what a cyborg is, part human, part robot. As we go further down, it seems like we have a lot of parts from the Lex Luthor power suit, and we'll compare that in a little bit. He has a sort of atomic logo on his chest. Dark green, light green, red. That's the majority of the colors on this guy. The face does look very interesting. Kind of a Dr. Doom type vibe. A little bit of texture on the butt, not on the rest of the body. Kind of interesting. Double jointed knees. Double jointed elbows. He does look cool, but like I said, the version I'm familiar with looks more like a man. Then he has robot parts and a kryptonite heart. And a closer look at his face, helmet, and head sculpt. It looks good. It looks cool. I don't think I've ever seen this version of Metallo before. And I wanted to take a look at this version of Metallo next to the source material. At least the source material that McFarlane or his guys have chosen. The outfit looks very similar, but look at his chest. I mean, this one here has this big giant sort of silver thing. This one has the atomic logo. Beyond that, it's fairly similar. I mean, this one has green boots. This one doesn't. So different differences. And I don't know if anyone out there can sort of tell me, is this from a different bit of source material besides this? Or is it just sort of a bad version of this guy? I'm guessing it's from a slightly different comic. But I frankly just don't know the answer. I want to talk about his legs for a second. Now, remember the old Lex Luthor in the power suit? He can be kind of difficult to stand. I'm having the same problems with this Metallo because it's based off the same body. At least I believe it is. Like I said, we'll check that out in a sec. I have to sort of bend one knee, have his feet a certain way. I don't like that. I like my figures to sort of stand up straight and flush. I mean, it works. It looks kind of weird. I'm sure I can mess with it more. I've taken the little ankle ball joints, completely turned around. It's really not any better. The ankles are sort of ratcheted, but they don't fall into the right place that allow them to stand properly. So you have to sort of use the knees to help with that. And it kind of sucks. Now let's check out his accessories. Starting off with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand. Typical McFarlane display stand we've seen a million times before. It's a black circle, thin, and basic, but it gets the job done. Here's his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of Metallo. Looks like he's throwing a truck behind him. Outfit's a little bit different than the figure. Metallo. On the back, there is a description. If you want to read that, pause now. And then here is the kryptonite. like I said, I can put this to a ton of use, whether it be with Superman, Lex Luthor, and hell, even Batman using kryptonite in the Batcave, perhaps to take down Superman, Hush style. Made of a semi-transparent green plastic. A bunch of different crystals, a big group of kryptonite, flat in the bottom. I thought this kryptonite accessory looked familiar. Here's Metallo's on the left, and then the McFarlane Batman Classic TV series 1966 comic spin-off Superman figure came with these two pieces here. Slightly different shade of green, but same type of accessory. I actually prefer this kind here because somebody can hold it. It's a little bit smaller. Typically in the comics and cartoons and movies, you have a little one piece of kryptonite, not a big group of them together like that. But very useful accessories indeed. Odd to see a multiverse figure using something out of the retro 66 line. He can actually hold this kryptonite piece. He's got a pretty wide open hand, and you can sort of squeeze it in there. But it looks kind of weird, especially with that flat bottom there. And now I wanted to check out the reuse and differences between this Metallo figure and Lex Luthor in his power suit. And although there is some reuse, quite a bit of differences as well. So, head, 100% different. The torso area actually looks to be completely different here, as well as the stomach. The arms, at least the biceps, look to be the same, but the forearm, a little bit different. The diaper piece looks to be the same, and then the legs also look to be the same. So, if you look at the two figures, they're 100% the same, except for the heads, the torso, the stomach, at least the forearm armor, and he has different hands. And McFarlane has now released 5 different figures that use the majority of Lex Luthor power suit. Now they all have list a little bit of differences, but the core main part of the base body is there. Atomic Skull, 3 versions of Lex Luthor, and now Metallo. I always thought this body could have made a good Mr. Freeze figure, but I'm happy they used a different sculpt for him. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at the figure and his accessories, let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing about 7.4 inches tall, which can translate to just under 19 centimeters. And for his articulation, starting with his head, of course, you can rotate side to side. He can look up and down about that much. Tilt his head from one side to the other. Shoulders, on a ball joint, goes up way more than 90 degrees. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got this butterfly ring between his shoulder and chest area, increasing the range of motion and covering the large gap that would be there. Bicep cut, double jointed elbows, his wrist can rotate, and it's going to be hinged. In his torso, he has ball joint, rotate around, forward and back, really not at all. Another one in the waist, rotate around, forward and back. Between the two, good range of motion. Definitely get a little more at the waist and the torso on him. Legs, completely of splits, McFarlane style hip joints. Rotation's pretty good. Then go forward about that much, back not at all. Double jointed knees, and then the ankles, forward and back. Rotate, tilt, rock, and of course, to articulation. Here's a look at Metallo, standing on top of a weakened Superman, holding his kryptonite in hand. Now let's check him out next to some other action figures, starting off with some other Metallo figures. Here he is, next to the only other Metallo figure that I have. This is a DC Direct Public Enemies Metallo. And as much as I hate the giant shovel for the arm, I do like the figure. He's pretty short in this weird crouch position, but he has that standard Metallo face with the blonde hair, and the face actually comes off, exposing the cyborg on the inside, robotic parts. In addition to that, his rib cage can actually come out, exposing a kryptonite heart that you can actually remove. Very cool indeed. Although, he really should have had an alternate hand to replace that dumb shovel. Now, I don't know about this particular version of Metallo, but typically, he's a robot with human flesh on top, and if all the human flesh gets removed, he looks pretty similar to the T-800. And then this McFarlane Flight 1 from Warhammer kind of reminds me of Metallo. We have the robot body, a little bit of human flesh on top, and then the green eye just makes me think of kryptonite. Here are all the different Superman rogues that McFarlane has made. There was once upon a time where we just had 1 or 2, and we didn't have the main ones. I would say Superman's main rogues are Darkseid, General Zod, and Lex Luthor. And there is a more traditional Darkseid that's starting to be released, and I'll have mine, I'm sure, in the near future. The General Zod and Lex Luthor are pretty normal versions, so I appreciate that. In front of you, from the top, left to right, we have Bizarro, Brainiac, Ultraman, General Zod, Lex Luthor, Metallo, Atomic Skull, and then Eradicator, Calabac, Darkseid, Cyborg Superman, Doomsday, Mongol, and Superboy Prime. Now, they've covered the main ones. What are the main Superman villains we're missing? Well, I mean, maybe a better version of Metallo, Parasite, Toyman. I mean, if those are our main missing Superman rogues, they've done a pretty good job covering the basics at this point. So Metallo here is a cyborg. The definition of a cyborg is a robot mixed with human parts. Part human, part robot. I was thinking, what other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures have they done of other cyborg characters? Well, of course, we have Cyborg himself, and then Murder Machine, I believe, fits that bill as well, and then Cyborg Superman. Now let's check them out. Next is some other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures, starting off with some other recent Target exclusives. Here's the newest wave of Target exclusives, Metallo and Fire, and here he is, next to another recent Target exclusive release. We have Jim Gordon in the rookie suit versus Mr. Bloom 2-pack, and the Target exclusive figures they made before that were Animal Man and Red Tornado, and before that they released Midnighter and Wave Rider as Target exclusives. Here's Metallo, next to the second digital wave, the Atom, Superman, and Green Arrow, and here he is, next to the Entertainment Earth exclusive Sketch Hush Batman, then next to the DC Rebirth Tim Drake Robin, and the New 52 Cyborg Superman, and now, next to the Nightfall Batman vs. Bane 2-pack. Here's Metallo, next to the Dark Knight Trilogy Morgan Freeman Lucius Fox, then next to the Joker and Punchline 2-pack, and now, next to the Amazon exclusive Glow in the Dark Batman Joker Robot, and the GameStop exclusive Frostbite Joker, and finally, next to the Kryptonite Doomsday Glow in the Dark Mega Figure. Now check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in, both scale and style-wise, in case you know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane toy, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect, and work my way smaller. But first, let's check him out with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale, and now, with some Jack-specific wrestling figures, and some Diamond Select toys. Here's Metallo, next to a box of strawberries and cream oatmeal, and here he is, next to some DC Direct and NECA figures. Then, with both some Mattel and Jazzwares wrestling figures, and now, with some Mezco and Mattel DC figures. Next, with some Mafex and Hasbro Marvel Legends, and finally, with some SH Figuarts and some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, it's a pretty cool Metallo figure. Red and green, kind of scream Christmas colors. It's not a version of Metallo that I'm familiar with, but he looks visually pleasing and interesting. I'm more used to the sort of human version of Metallo with the blonde hair and the skin ripping off, looking like a T-800 Terminator underneath. And I'm sure eventually McFarlane will give us that version. They usually release the kind of weird, unusual versions first because they know if they release the normal version first, people won't buy the weird one. At least not as many. The sculpt and paint job are pretty nice. Like I said, it pops for the eyes and looks good. His accessories, even though it's reused from the 66 Retro line, I welcome more Kryptonite in the collection. His articulation is everything you expect from a modern McFarlane DC Multiverse figure. Now, it's a little bit dated because it's on the old Lex Luthor body, and those ankles have always frustrated the hell out of me. Always have a little bit of trouble getting him to stand, have to kind of utilize the knees, etc. If I were to rate this figure, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10, and that's maybe a tad higher than I expected. I thought, ugh, look at this Metallo, it looks dumb. I thought both Metallo and Fire looked like a pretty dumb wave. Both versions of those characters that I didn't really want. But in hand, they're both nicer than I expected. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.